Grinnell, aye.
Very good. Welcome to the Finance Committee of the Council Rock School Board, meeting on September 22nd, 2016 in Chancellor Hall, Chancellor Center in Newtown, Pennsylvania. I am not Wendy Thomas. Wendy is delayed and in transit. So I'm going to go through the room right now. We're going to let everyone introduce themselves, starting.
Bob Reinhardt, Director of Business Administration.
Jerry Grupp, School Board Director.
Robert Frazier, Superintendent.
Matt Fedderson, Director of Information Technology. Garrett Pazian, guest. Mike Thorworth, Board Member.
Ed Tate, Board Member.
Joe Messina, CREI.
Denise Brooks, Board Member.
And with that, I'll turn it over to Rob Reiner, who has a presentation to see.
Thank you. There's agendas on the table, and there's also my presentation for this evening. Mrs. Thomas is on her way, and she will be here. She's caught in traffic, and I expect that she may interrupt the presentation with some business that needs to be conducted about the committee when she gets here, but I am not going to get into that part at this point. What I am talking about tonight is summarizing our contracts, and this is the first shot we've taken in years in trying to summarize all the contracts of the district. You can go to the first slide. There's a document that I'm going to be showing off of this presentation that shows 100 different contracts that we have within the district. Just different contracts, and I will tell you that is the beginning of listing contracts. There are probably contracts that you will be able to say, oh, how about this one, or how about this one? What we did is went through the process in trying to develop this list. This list is going to be dynamic, and it's going to change annually. I really believe that this is going to be an annual event where I come in and I show you our contracts and where we are with them. So that's really the purpose of the listing. The origin of the items on the list, Cabinet got together and we started listing contracts that we were responsible for. I then went through board docs and looking for contracts. And I will tell you that there are things, maybe software that the schools use, databases and things like that that are probably not on here at this point. And if they were, we would have probably another 100 items and another $10,000 worth of cost, and you'll see the value of this and you'll start understanding what I mean. I'm going to summarize the data and show you what we did with the data, the organization of the report, and the recommendation of the administration moving forward. And you're going to have a lot of detail, and in fact, after the meeting tonight, I'm going to email you the spreadsheet, and you can look at it yourself and see how it's organized and maybe gain some more questions. I do not expect tonight, as we go through the list, we are going to look at the list, that we're going to stop at every contract and look at it. There are specific contracts that I may bring up and say, hey, this is something I'd like some input on, okay? But I don't expect it to be stop here, we're going to be going through it, because if not, we're going to be here till all hours. And then finally, I am going to update you with the agreement with Wilmington Trust. We've been negotiating the language, and I think we're there now. I'm just going to do that real quickly at the end of the meeting. Go ahead. Previously, we were asked this question, give us a summary of our contracts, and we would like to see the list. And we ended up pulling out 6 or 7 contracts and said, here, this is where all the money is. And I'm going to show you the statistics tonight on that's where all the money is. But I have extended it, not just 7 contracts like we had before. Now we have 100 contracts, and there could be more as we go through more, but I think we have the major ones. This is something that we're going to establish now a basis. And this is going to be our report, and I'm going to be giving it to year after year on what we've done, updated, what we've changed, what we haven't changed, so that we have a time to say, hey, I'm concerned about this contract or this contract. So it's a time that we can look at it. I think next year, you'll probably have the information a little earlier, so you guys can look at it and be prepared to come to the meeting. This year, I was still working on information up to probably, 3 o'clock this afternoon. This again will be determining what our focus is going to be on the contracts, when we're going to do selection, what process are we going to use to select the contractors involved in this going forward. And again, we're going to look at this annually. Original list, I went over that. Members identified contracts, obtained historical information. And I, again, describe this again. There's a significant number of contracts there, but by no means am I going to tell you there isn't something else out there that you could say, Bob, how about this, or how about that? Do I believe it's a lot of value? No, I don't think you're going to find anything out there that has a lot of value. Okay. Okay, summary of contracts. We have 100 contracts, and they're worth about $48.8 million. Okay. What I've done is I wasn't exact or anything, but what I did is went out there and I looked at the contract and said, like IBC, that's a $20 million contract. It could be $20,587,000. Next year, it could be $22 million based on the increase in cost, but the relative cost is there. So don't get involved in how'd you get that number. It's the broad number for you to look at it and compare. So the largest contract we have is $20 million. Now, when I look at big expenditures, we're always talking about salaries, but $109 million. We always talk about PSERS. PSERS alone is what, $35 million this year. Social Security is another $9 million or something like that. So those are not contracts, but they're what we're putting towards the budget. Debt service, $17 million. That's not a contract. So I'm just trying to name things that would not be contracts. Supplies are not contracts. So there's all kinds of things that are in our budget that are not contracts, but 48.8 is what we have coverage here. Budget being about $226 million. Largest contract, $20 million for Blue Cross Blue Shield. V7, I'm going to go over in detail at the end to show you what we've done. So, seventh highest, about 92% of the total expenditures. So in 7 contracts, 92% of the 48 million, 49 million is in these contracts. Express Script, $8 million. First Student, $7 million. Now, when we talk about First Student, remember we have gas and other items that we have in that, so the total budget for transportation is probably about $10 million. So you might get that mixed up, but First Student contracts about $7 million. Chartwell's is 3.6. Now, when you look at that, that isn't some cost that's in the general fund. That's really the costs that are coming in through kids. We're getting revenues from the state in and things like that. So that's a different type of value, and it's not part of the general fund. Our mark is $2.4 million. Special ed is about $2 million. Again, that's something that goes up and down depending on what services we're getting and the amount of services we're getting. And finally, dental insurance is 1.6. So when you look at this, our biggest contracts are wrapped up in a lot of our employee benefits. If you look at where we are, and that's where the costs are. You know, we've done a lot of work on the contracts with employee benefits, and I'm going to go over where we are with those different things. So you're going to know that we are paying attention to what's happening with these contracts. It isn't something that we're just letting them go and running with whatever. Okay, when you get the report, you're going to see 6 tabs on the bottom. One tab that has every contract in it, and it's listed from the highest value contract to the lowest value contract. That's just giving you a complete list of the 100 contracts. The other 5 tabs are going to be ones that are reviewed annually. There are contracts that every year we select a vendor or go through a selection process. We then put what are short term, 3 to 5 years. If you remember, I can give an example of Doug's contracts where you see he does a bid for a 3-year contract to do certain things that you guys approve every 3 years. So a lot of those contracts are in here. Long-term basis, and you'll see that. If you look at it, Tyler Munis, which is our software company, and what we do for human resources and business office. By no means every 3 years are we going to start selecting a new software or something like that. So those are the type of contracts. Subject to review on a long-term basis, not applicable you'll see those contracts, and I can't remember which ones, but you'll see that there's no, we can't be really selecting providers for that. And then bound by contractual terms, that one only has one contract in it, and that is First Student. We have 7-year contract with First Student. We're not going to be moving anything for 7 years, and it's because we're bound by the contract, the 7-year contract. Okay, now let's look at the information. And would you go, the first slide, could you go all the way to the end, just to show all the contracts? That's on the very end, yeah, complete listing. Okay. If you just want to page down, if you'll see, you'll keep going down, and these are all the contracts and the vendors, and we have listings and explanations to it so that you can read to understand what it is. It is a significant amount of information. Okay? Now we've taken this and we've divided. So every one of these contracts are in one of these tabs. Okay? So why don't we go to the annual tab? Okay. Move over to, oh no, that's right. Okay. If you look at here, this is showing Bucks County Intermediate Unit, Special Services Department, Special Education Services, and it's annual. I'm going to be describing that later in the presentation because that is one of the top 7, and that's why it's highlighted. So you know that's one of the top 7. Propane supply operations. This is for Soul Finestone and the maintenance building, and that's the cost of that. Fuel oil, gasoline supply for all of these schools, about $60,000. Why do you think fuel oil is so low?
Because you made a good contract.
Because most of our fuel or heating fuel now is natural gas. So that is no longer as big a cost. And then you'll see these smaller items that we do on an annual basis. Okay? So when you see the list of contracts that Doug's having you guys approve, it's because we're doing that on an annual basis or a 3-year annual basis. Let's go to subject to. Okay. Here's you're going to see a big group of contracts that are the 7 that we discussed earlier. Now keep going down. Rhodes Energy. If you remember when we put the propane tanks in and all that, that was a joint purchase where we got the supply and the tanks in at the same time. We're in the 2nd year of a 3-year contract with them. We locked in the first 2 years and then we locked in a little later the 3rd year. So there's nothing we can do with that until the 3rd year is over, and we will definitely be bidding this because this is a commodity. Okay. Sun Life, this is our stop loss. If you remember, on an annual basis, I come to you guys and say, this is our new stop loss contract, and that gets marketed by Gallagher each year. So, Fraser Advanced Information Systems, we just approved a new contract there, and I can keep going through these, but we could talk about each one of them, if you will. If you want to go down, and where do I, the one that I want to talk about, and I don't have it here, is there's been some discussion, and I really wanted information tonight about looking for another insurance broker or putting that out for an RFP. I need direction from the board tonight because I want to make our current provider aware of that if we are going to do that. Right there it is. Yeah. Now, we've had it for quite a while, but if you see this, this is not a real financial issue to us because they are paid commissions from the insurance carriers. This is not a cost to the school district. We don't pay them a fee to do this or anything. They get it through a commission from the carriers that they have. So it has no financial effect on us. But I know we haven't done this I'm not even sure when and how long they've been here. And I've had, if you remember, the last time I brought the insurances to you, Mr. Bialik said, I've been asking for this for 24 months. And this is a product of that. But tonight, if you will, I'd like some type of discussion to say, Bob, we'd like you to do X, Y, or Z, because I need to put them on notice. We can't wait until December or January, because we have to have a broker on time to start marketing our carriers before July 1st. So if I could stop here and ask you guys to, I will answer any questions I can, but is there a strong feeling on this?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So date of last RFP unknown, can't find the original award. How far back can you go?
17 years at least. That's my experience. They were here when I got it.
So I talked about this and I was saying to him, it takes time and effort to go to RFP. So there are several on here that we have not done for a very long time. Maybe never. He can't do them all at once. So what he and I talked about is maybe prioritizing some of these that we might like to have done. Do maybe, target, this is one that's been brought up, the insurance broker is another one that's been brought up. There's a couple of them. And so maybe we would pick one to do now, because the timing is, correct me if I'm wrong, that you feel you have the time to do at least one. And I put out there that maybe do the insurance one when we're getting closer to going back to contract negotiations and add more support services during negotiation,
Meaning
because I think that was lacking.
the health insurance broker, not
Yeah, the health insurance
this
broker, that's right.
broker of our business
So,
carrier.
I think if we went to RFP of that, I would like them to provide more support. Then they weren't unwilling, but they weren't really asked. And in all fairness, that's not in our contract for them to spend those hours of time. So I thought this one would be a good one. It seems like they've had it for a long time. It's come up a lot. We currently don't even have a rep that we know of. I'm sure somebody over there is a rep,
My
but
history has been Pete Palestino and George Komolowski were the people that I was in contact with. And I had this close relationship with them. They've done a wonderful job. I really have no relationship with people there right now.
that doesn't matter. They can still bid on it, but I'm just saying, it's not like they've done a good job for us in the past. Bob's represented that. They've gotten us lower rates, but it seems like it's a good time to do this. So I guess I'd just like to hold the board.
I don't want to prioritize in isolation. So, I think that one is worthy. What I'd like to see is let's just look at everything as an individual basis if we think it's important. And then when we're done, we can see what we've got on the list and then we're like, you know what, that's too much, but then we can prioritize. But I can't say how that would, compare to some others at this point.
The way this is organized right now is really for us to review it, or this is too much information for us to go down every contract.
No, if you want to
And
Can
point
you
out,
sort
so,
it by date of last RFP?
yeah, that's,
No, it's also not out or something.
There is so many variances on all of these type of things that I'm afraid to put it down. I will tell you that,
you went really quickly, but a little further up, there were some things that were 2009, 2006. So I'm just-
I have a question about the magnitude of that contract. I realize we don't pay them a cent. What's the total dollar amount of business that they manage, in a sense?
Huge.
And maybe that's the wrong word, but.
Yeah,
I know what you mean,
No,
exactly.
total premium.
I've got
Total premium is quite high.
Yeah.
It's millions.
1.4 million, I would say, of premiums. Now, understand it this way, where every claim we get, and believe it or not, there's more claims than you think that I put in that don't amount to anything, but for different reasons, I'm putting claims in a couple of weeks, could mean nothing. But I get, I put it through Paste and Know, and they put it with appropriate carriers and making sure we have the appropriate documentation. You may say, well, that's pretty mundane, but I will tell you that making sure it's getting with a proper carrier, making sure the carrier is seeing it and properly addressing it, and dealing with any contract issues that they may say, oh, that's not our coverage, or this isn't our coverage. I don't have that expertise. I'm counting on Paste and Know to say, Bob, this is what this is the claim, this is the issues with putting a claim in this way or this way. We've never had a problem. Claims have been paid, we have never been exposed at all. But I might be overstating that for you. Another time, workers' compensation, over this period of time, we were getting a very deep discounted, it was a soft market, we were getting a very deep discounted full premium. They took the discount off and our premium was gonna go up from $500,000 to $900,000 in a year. Case of note came to me and we looked at it and they said, Bob, two things you can do. You can do full self-insurance with workers' comp, then you have your own third-party administrator that you pay and it's all broken up, or you can go retrospective, where it's just like that, but everything's with the insurance company that's doing it. We went to that model, and we've saved unbelievable amount of money, and it's because we've administered it well, we didn't have any big losses or anything, but they brought that to me, and they got it running. We were PMA, we've been with PMA for the last 4 years. We've made a lot of savings or cost reduction by doing that. So they've done something like that too, and it's worked well.
Here's, for me,
Yes.
one, the time I've been here, they've been, this is nothing against them. There's certainly nothing against them. They have a local presence, which has been important to us. They work with you, but when you don't, my father used to say, in the land of the blind, the man with one eye is king. If we don't know much about it, and we don't collectively, then how do I know who else would have given that same offer? I agree, an RFP, a formal RFP is one thing. I'm interested in a little lighter touch to find out initially who plays in this space, because that I don't know, which could be an RFI, just so we understand the lay of the land. Because
I'm not opposed, I'm just saying.
I have a certain amount of, because of the customer service aspect, that proximity to the office and the proximity to the community means something. But I don't even know how many there are to play in that space. So I'd be interested in maybe a lighter RFI to find out how many respondents there were. And then
To your point there, Denise, the three that I think have come up that I don't think have been done, that have been frequently, I think, brought up, that I've heard are Haston Knoll, health insurance broker, and the solicitor. They're the three that,
Right, well,
when Bob and I were going through it, I mean, there's security, the flex spending, or, not on 605 or whatever. But those three board members at various times have all been brought
And
up.
those are the ones that came to my mind. I just didn't know if there were others that were like.
We didn't go through this, he and I, explicitly, but those were the three that I also
And
brought up.
I mean,
He kept saying, we already do this one, we're gonna do this one, and I'm sure there's some others on there that we probably should do, but it's trying to balance the workload with everything else that's
I
happening.
mean, those are the ones that came
three.
to my mind too, but because
They are the three, I think, that, there's
In
been
my mind-
multiple times that people brought them up.
The ones I look at, GH Harris is one, they've been our delinquent collector for a long time. Generally occupations are captive, it's just occupation. Again, we pay them nothing. I believe they've done a good job. I've been in court with them a few times and we've won. And so they've done well. I will tell you, there's other organizations, this Portnoy wants to come in and they want to take over what the county does too. I mean, I could bring you all kinds of stuff if you really want to look at stuff, but I could explain all that, why I haven't brought it to you also. But, so there's all kinds of stuff like that. Like when you think of bond counsel, do you remember when I just went out before and we reduced our bond counsel for payments from like $18,000 down to $10,500? So a lot of these, I'll tell you, I think we've done good with that. If anything, if you want to look at it, I would say let's start from the top, the highest value, and let's go through to the lowest value, because the highest value, and I'm going over the 7 that are the highest value that really are high. And you're going to, I think, be more comfortable with saying, wow, 92%, we're keeping our eye on that. But the other ones, yeah, there's things, but I am pointing out the ones that have been a constant issue to me, and I'm looking for direction, and it's something that I will tell you that the board needs to give me some direction in those, because they are different than us saying it's a commodity and go out and get it. There's different relationships, and that's why I'm asking for advice.
Well, you know, it's funny, on casualty, using the company's name, on the casualty insurance company, part of what you said too talks to that you're involved with them, whoever you deal with, that type of involvement you need, because it's also avoiding labor on your side. Because otherwise you'd have to hire people to do some of the things that are going on. So I think that helps to construct what we're looking for, and I guess that's, even in RFI, the high level, the first top 5 things we're looking for,
Mhm.
you know, in whoever we pick, what is it? That one is always so awkward too, because you can't, it's professional services, let's be very candid, it's professional services, just so we're clear, it's not required by law to be
You're not
out
doing
bid,
it
it's
public.
not a bid. But also the number associated with it is how well do they do in negotiating for you? That's what it comes down to. It's not, they're not telling you it's $3 a square foot or it's $4 a square foot. They're negotiating for you.
Well, I think at this point, we should go around the table and say if there's a certain service, are we in agreement, we're not gonna give direction to go to do all of these at once?
Well, I still have a question on Pace and No.
Okay,
I'm just waiting to get in there.
Go ahead.
What's your metric for that? I mean, it doesn't have a value. If you go to RFP, you're gonna have a metric. What is it?
Yep. Metric for me is gonna be experience in the marketplace. Give me some innovative things that you have done to save your clients money. How do you process claims, and what is important to you in processing a claim? And how do you, I would say, become our advocate against the carrier to make sure that we're getting proper coverage? So those are 4 things I would tell you, and I will tell you that and I don't have it now, but I started this before when this was brought up. I had an RFP from a previous person, and that's what I would pull out and I'd start looking at that to become more established on what my criteria are going to be, because I'm going to get ideas from that also.
I'm concerned it's gonna become the best sales pitch. And that's, instead of some kind of metric with these kind of things, so.
They're
We can't measure
subjective.
it.
Yeah, they are subjective, and it's not a dollar figure to say we're getting this for this, because it is commissions they receive from the carriers, directly from the carriers. We are not involved in it. So I understand what you're saying. The only reason I would tell you this could be a natural time to do it is because the relationships I had, those people are no longer with that company. And that's the only reason I would say it would be a natural time to do it, as opposed to next year, unless I come to you and say, things have fallen down quite a bit and I don't believe we're getting the same service.
I'm leaning towards an RFI just because
I'm good with that.
then we can see the sales pitches before we go.
Yes.
Just trying to.
Yeah.
and do you like that topic? Like, so there's 3 that have been brought up, right? That I know, legal, medical, and other insurance.
It's tough for me to rank them only because I hate to have Bob chasing something that could save us 50 grand when we have, $43.5 million where you can, do much better than that.
If you want to have this conversation after you hear
That's
what
fine.
I have
That's
about the
fine.
7, so you can see what we've done with the 7, maybe that will give you better
that's fine.
perspective and say, you know what, I feel comfortable with the 7, let's go back to the lower level of these.
there's only one of you, so I'm trying to.
Well, you're gonna see, as I have here, that the department really is split services. I mean, securities benefit, now that's flex spending, we pay nothing for it, and it's because of our relationship. That's been since 2009, I believe. is- 2005, sorry.
But it's also governed by statute. I mean, flexible spending accounts are.
Well, it's a third-party administrator, there's a lot of people doing that, and we could end up paying someone if we wanted not to use security benefit. They've been doing fine for us, and we're not paying anything, so why would we change that? So, but there are all those things where other people are involved in this. if we decide to do something. The ones we're talking about, fortunately or unfortunately, are mine. But I'm good with that. And you'll see the other ones that are operations, you're gonna see that most of them are Doug's, but you're gonna see they're doing a good job of that already. That every 3 years they're doing all of this. Why don't we go back to the slides? And you're gonna wanna take this out and get your glasses out, because I should have put this to one per slide, because it's very, very, very small. And I'm not sure you will go there. Go ahead. Yeah, you're reading. Okay. And I'm gonna read this or paraphrase what I've talked about here. Blue Cross Blue Shield, $20 million, human resources, healthcare. Our district, our consultant Arthur Gallagher, and our associations are continually reviewing healthcare alternatives. Recently, we were negotiating higher employer premium assistance and changed benefit plans to reduce the continuing increase in healthcare. Over the past few years, the district has considered participating in the Bucksmont Healthcare Consortium. We will continue to explore ways to control costs associated with healthcare. This is the big one, and I gotta tell you, we have our eye on it, and we're looking at it, and Wendy, myself, Arthur Gallagher have been looking at this with Christine. So I think, I won't tell you our healthcare costs are under control, but this is something that we're squarely looking at.
We just had a presentation Tuesday night at BIU with regard to an update as to where everything stands through their lens, which we have asked for a copy of, which I will share with everybody when I get back.
Okay.
I think it was good information, again, through their lens, but I think it's good information for everybody to have.
They made a big move where they moved from Independence Blue Cross to Aetna. So I gotta tell you, their first year in, I'm really interested in seeing their results, because it's gonna be interesting. Them moving helped us reduce our administrative costs with IBC. They reduced our cost per month per contract because we're still with them. We got about $6 a contract, which is probably 11% discount or something like that, I believe, because of that. But that's not a huge amount of money. Our claims is a big amount of this. So, Express Scripts, $8 million contract. Again, we look at this very closely. The last few weeks, months maybe, we've been talking to Gallagher, and we are working on an alternative right now that I think I'm going to be able to give you an update on looking at some savings in the next 2 months. I can't get into more detail. In fact, Gary's looking at me, and the association doesn't even know about this at this point, but it's something that we're working on, that we believe there's savings there, and I will be coming back to you in the next month or two. We're still working through it. Something happened on Tuesday night that made it available to us. So,
I'm confused on the first two. There are $28 million between them.
yes.
Let's just look at the first one, $20 million. That's a payment we make to Blue Cross, or that's payments that are made because we engage in Blue Cross? Meaning, we, you know the answer. Just for anybody who's listening, we ensure, we provide the funds that are used to make the payments to claimants up to a certain dollar amount. Is that the 20 million we're talking about, or is there another 20 million we're paying Blue Cross, which is, that's the money, that's.
This amount is on a weekly basis. We get information in and we make payments to Blue Cross. That information tells us what claims we have to pay, what type of administrative costs we have to pay, what type of, what's it called?
But it's a pass-through, Jerry.
Right,
So
I
if
guess
somebody's going to the hospital, it costs $100 because they're with Blue Cross. We pay Blue Cross $100, that Blue Cross plan pays the hospital. So some of the 20 million
that's
is,
my point, is my point within the 20 million for Blue Cross in particular is there's actually a paren, in my mind, there's a paren under that number, which is how much of that is actually passing on to the claimant, because what's the carrying cost? What's Blue Cross making on this contract? There's
like
some-
the admin
that's-
fees, 30 bucks.
Exactly,
whatever.
that's the
It's
question.
not- But the question there, the bigger money question to get to your point is, we're getting Blue Cross discounts. If we had a contract with Aetna, we would get Aetna's discounts. If we had a contract with United, we get United's discounts. So we could shop the contract, the decision-making processes, who is the best discounts in the provider community? Because that's where the big dollars are. And how big is that network, and does it satisfy our needs? So looking at it as it something you put out to RFP or RFI, to me, is the person with the best discounts to get your claims dollars down the lowest, but the network has to be reasonable. Either way, the first thing I said when I saw this is, that's negotiated. So
No, well, that's my point, which is it's not really.
we're not doing a lot about that right now.
They're not coming in and saying, well, it's $20 million. It's really claims experience and everything else based on.
Right, but you still would go out to
Agreed.
under the idea of who are you gonna go out to RFP for, if we all were in agreement, Gary, if we are in agreement, we're gonna put it out to bid, you know, we might do that to get better discounts and to get better admin fees, but that was my argument years ago with the consortium, is if you only look at the administrative fees we actually pay Blue Cross, it's minuscule compared to the big dollars, which are claims.
Well,
It would be $450,000 out of the 20 million. I mean,
And-
that's how small it is.
and that's sort of
Your point.
well, it's very good to look at the numbers and go, well, these are the big contracts. But at some point within there, what we're looking at is not the value of the contract, because that's oftentimes not, it's the margins. So when we look at, your point is very well taken, which is it's their negotiating the ability. If I'm looking at something that's professional services, as an attorney, if I'm looking at attorneys, that's margin. That, they could say, well, it's only $400 an hour, but we're only gonna wind up charging you $125 an hour. That's margin.
Right.
That's where they can affect it. If I'm buying gasoline,
The difference, I think, with Blue Cross is that you can't disconnect the amount we pay in claims from the amount we pay in admin fee. Because somebody else can't come along and say, oh, I'll only charge you 26 in admin, but I'll still give you the Blue Cross discount.
Right.
So so when we were looking, when Denise was asked, or Mike asked, how much money is in the contracts, even though we don't pay a line item to them, you're kind of saying it's a similar, the difference is you can't get those discounts without getting that
and
admin
knows,
fee.
but that's
So-
where some of these contracts, it actually comes down to margin.
Yeah,
What's their margin?
Yeah.
Is really because that's where they can negotiate. From many of the contracts we look at,
right.
they're negotiating their
They
margin.
can't make the claims go away.
Exactly.
Can we process last year's set of claims? Give everybody last year's claims? or-
Usually, if you're out to RFP, some carriers will do that for free. I think that's what the consortium did. Other people in the room might know better than I.
And there's your metric.
Right, sometimes there's a small fee to have that done because it's technical work. But yeah, that's typically before you move. There's two things you do. You run who's in the network, are they in the other network? And if these claims happen this year, how much would they pay? How much would they spend? That's typically what you would do.
Okay. And Express Scripts, we have some news coming out on that, and we'll explain that in the next month or two. First, you guys lived through that negotiations and what we've done.
Was that a negotiation?
Exactly.
Jerry,
No, we're
when
not
we're
talking anymore
negotiating-
about it. We've talked enough. Keep
But
going.
at the time,
Oh, no,
I will
no.
tell you, we did move to propane buses, and I think it was the right thing to do. Go ahead. Chartwells, again, I've written a lot about that. This is very much, because we're in the National School Lunch Program, we are required to do an RFP process every 5 years. You give a 1-year contract and 4 renewals. We went through that process. This is the third year of the 5-year period. We could decide to do it in any of those next years if we would want to. What I have found in that is that there's a lot of people that want to come in here and provide us our food service, and you will see that they will guarantee, because the contract really is a guaranteed contract, it's cost, and they guarantee some profit or loss. And you will see that a company that doesn't have it but wants it is gonna give you some huge guarantee the first year, and then try to get their money back the next 4 years. It is very interesting what we saw. Charles has been here for, I think, 28 years, someone told me. They've become a partner of ours. We have some struggles right now, as you guys know, that we had a loss. A lot of that is, I believe, is with the nutrition rules that we have for the middle schools and the elementary schools. But we're trying, and they're working on it now. A lot is happening with that contract right now.
It's starting to show too.
Pardon me?
It's starting to show. I mean, I had kids in elementary schools. So you
Yeah.
just know it. I mean, that's how it is.
The Aramark contract, you know that we haven't bid that for quite a few years, 10 years or something like that. And we've been continuing to move that forward. This past year, with our difficult budget, they really stepped up and reduced their contract by $480,000. In addition to that, they didn't take their increase that they would have, which we valued at about $50,000. In speaking with Doug, he would like to move forward and ask them for 3 proposals to see if they would be acceptable to stay with us. He believes that what has happened in the last year, they should be recognized as a partner of ours, and we should give them another opportunity. He's not sure how many other organizations would have done this for us, and they really want to keep us. So.
Did you say, I'm sorry, he asked for 3 proposals? Or
He would like-
3 proposals?
Well, he'd like a 1 year, 3 year, and a 5 year, or something like that, to say, what would you do
Yeah.
if we would extend this? So that's where he'd like to go this year. I believe that while we're in this big renovation period, it might be a reason why we want to keep the same people in there and not start getting a new company in and everything else. Because there's some buildings that are going to be just holding on, I think, as we have construction going on around them. Okay. Go ahead. Bucks County Intermediate Unit. You know, the Bucks County Intermediate Unit, when I was there, it was called that we had excess cost, meaning that all you had to do is pay the IU, your tuition rate, and the state paid on everything else for special education. And they thrived as the provider of special education throughout their region, because no one had any reason to have their own special ed, because the state incentivized you to stay with the IU. Since then, now that they went away from excess costs and we pay for whatever it costs, it has become more of a consumer-driven organization. But there are things that we can't do that the IU can do because of the type of services. Blind, vision services and hearing services, we could never do because we don't have enough children. So we, of course, would take them to a consortium basis. A lot of the services we have here are OT and PT. OT and PT, it just makes sense that the IU has a staff of OT and PT that they can spread out and do the services that are needed. Chuck looks at this every year. If you remember, since I've been here, we've taken over the speech and language program because it made more sense for us to be here for many reasons. The delivery of the services as well as the cost. Chuck believed that it was better being here, so we evaluate this each year. So the IU cost, in fact, next year, that could be down to 1.6. It's very volatile. It's what we buy.
Robert, maybe this question is for you. Does Chuck look at those, we took on speech, services. If it becomes uneconomical for us to do it, do we switch back? Or are we committed once we pull this back in-house?
Well, you have the economic lens, and then you also just have the educational
That's
service.
my lens.
So
Yeah.
it's in totality
Yeah.
with it. But I think what we found with that particular program is that it has been economical. for us.
And I picked that one just because Bob did, right?
Yeah, sure.
So,
But
if we look at it holistically.
It would be the application of both of those lenses.
Okay, so you guys get the IU thing. MetLife, and this is dental insurance. This is an issue that we've talked about for a few years. when you look at it, everything else we have, well, I shouldn't say that. Vision insurance, which is a very small contract, is fully insured, as well as dental is fully insured. Meaning, when we talk about the self-insured model with IBC, is we pay the claims and we pay the administrative costs, and that's what calculates it. Right now, the MetLife model for our dental insurance is we pay a premium and they pay the claims. What's very different about this is that the dental insurance has a maximum, so they can only pay $1,000. So instead of having a stop loss policy, we already have a hard stop, because unlike health insurance, you can have claims from the sky being high. This seems to me like it would be interesting to see if we could go out and self-insure this, meaning that I believe that 1.6 could go down further. We have talked to Arthur Gallagher, and we are looking at doing that. That would be implemented next year. So we're looking at, and we're in the process of looking at the 1.6 million.
Because the insurance, the delivery of the insurance for our staff doesn't change.
Right.
It would be transparent, it's
Yes.
it's just how we fund it.
The only thing that could happen is if we went from a MetLife network to a Delta Dental network, that could have some disruption. Everything I've always heard is that Delta Dental has a much more robust network than MetLife. My experience with MetLife is I don't like they're not consumer friendly in my mind. I've had issues with them, and that's my personal opinion. So we're going to look into it and see where we go with that. Okay.
That's a much smaller pool, however, too, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's not 20 million, actually 22 million or whatever it's going to be. But. So what I wanted to point out to you is that in these 7 contracts, which I've gone over everything, so you know in a lot of detail of what we're doing and that we're keeping an eye on these, not to say that the costs aren't going up. Unfortunately, our biggest contract is healthcare, and I've been warning you guys about healthcare forever. The second contract is prescription drug, and I'm warning you that it went up 17% last year. So unfortunately, 2 of our biggest contracts are ones that I'm really concerned about the inflation. But I value this $44.6 million. The total amount of the 100 contracts is 48. So 7 contracts cover about almost 92% of the spend in contracts. I hope that gives you a comfort level that contracts aren't running wild. We always have opportunities to do better, and we're trying our best to do better. Now that you understand that part, Matt, you want to go back to the total contracts. All the way to the right, all the. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Teach you how to do pivot tables and filter clear.
Try to teach me what it is.
I don't know if you can move that over because I have an extra column here.
Over.
Please.
Well, then you can see the values of them. You can't see it now. Oh, perfect. There you go. Yeah. So go down past the 1.6 million. Okay. We can start going down if you would like and looking at all of these different items as we go down. And I've talked about some.
So the whole tail here is less than $4 million. I mean, after your top 7.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's,
so, but like Payson or the solicitor or Gallagher, those 3 have been brought up by board members. So
Sure.
I'm trying to ascertain in our new world of trying to get agreement to get to the consent agenda. But I'm trying to ascertain whether there's a will to go to RFI. That's what I've heard a couple times. Everybody hasn't necessarily said to go to RFI on those insurance services. Is there something else that somebody wants to see done? But I am more sensitive than Bob that this is the time of year we need to do it, because by January, he needs to be entrenched. Yeah, budget. And so if the topic comes up in February and somebody's like, well, why don't we RFI that or RFP it or whatever, it's a bad time. So he wanted to have this discussion tonight so we could say, Is everybody okay if we do one? Does people feel like we need to do multiple? If we do one, which one does people want?
Personally, I'm okay with trying, I'd like to try at least one,
Okay,
but I'm of the, if there's no dollar value, I'd rather an RFI than an RFP.
okay, I like the
That way,
RFI as
you know,
well.
we get to see the sales pitches without any commitment.
Because they're of the same nature.
Okay.
I'd rather do just the insurance first,
Okay,
because I'd like to take what we've learned, because that one has a renewal date, the attorney's counsel can
Anytime.
change at any time. But this gives us a chance to go through it, doesn't overtax you, look at Bob. It also allows us to see how the responses come back and how we respond to them, and thereafter have a basis for the other two.
all right, I got
And
two.
the board wants to be involved in the interview process, or some board members. I would encourage that.
Okay, Denise,
Don't we have to renew the solicitor when we reorg in December?
we named them without any expiration date. We could renew them December 1st
So
and get rid of them
that is
December
not-
15th. The problem is it's never on the agenda, which is why we're talking about timing and that kind of thing.
Also, changing solicitor has an overlap period, because while you're appointing a
Right.
solicitor, you have in process
No,
work.
Very frankly, we looked at it a few years ago. Nobody could come close to the money. So while I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, we put our feelers out. And I mean, not within $100 an hour close.
Well,
So-
we were impressed when they came in.
No, I know there were lots of other things, but I'm just saying, so monetarily,
Don't
it
don't
has,
misunderstand the question though, because I'm actually more just taking into account things that absent board members have said previously, so I just wanted to ask that.
Yeah,
And
I'm just
I
saying-
didn't know if there was something magical about,
we just have to say on December 1st who it is, at least that's my understanding. And the other thing financially, I just wanted to say, if you look up there, it says we've had East Vernon Gray forever. We didn't actually go to RFP, we just put feelers out. Prices weren't anywhere close, and so there was a will at that time to hang. Just giving that as food for background.
And we still bring in special counsel
Yes, we do.
on unique items.
So I've got two. Ed, do you,
Yeah, I like going out for RFI for the insurance business. I mean, I view that as $1 million contract, even though we're not spending $1 million.
right, I agree.
and in that RFI, I mean, is there relevance to asking whatever the other providers you're gonna find if they work with school districts?
Well, I'm gonna definitely get,
Right. No, you didn't say that,
School districts.
Melissa, I just wanted,
Yes.
I guess it's obvious, but.
and I'd like to just have them give me something innovative they've done with the school district.
Right.
I'm not gonna tell them what I know about it, but I wanna hear what they've done.
Okay, so I just think I need to allow, am I doing public comment in this new format? Or it goes to consent agenda?
Yeah, just voting.
I was told
Oh,
that I'm
okay,
trying to
yes.
learn.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
I thought if there was something we were gonna pass the consent agenda, there was a topic that said, no. Okay, so public comment at the end or then. Okay, I'm just trying to be clear on what I'm supposed to do. So you have 6 board members that say, yes, we wanna go out to RFI, and I don't actually think it needs to go on the
I was gonna
consent
say,
agenda,
this
does it?
one, we don't need to take action on this one, right? You just need more.
I just needed direction and I yelled,
All right.
So this won't go on the agenda.
Let's all just try to be open to learning. We're in a new environment,
It's good
Jerry. Let's not be
practice.
critical. I'm
Good
trying.
practice for us.
Exactly. I was late as it is. I'm enough stressed out. Don't keep giving me grief. Okay, good. Next topic, are you good?
yes.
Can I put insert a middle topic? Because I was supposed to do it
Yes,
first.
I know, go ahead.
I was supposed to do it first, but I was late, so
I
I'm
warned
sorry.
everybody when you came in, you had.
You were warned I would be running in on my broom?
Wendy,
That's nice of
you
you.
might want to wait till it gets back.
Oh,
So,
yes.
Make it the last topic.
Okay,
It's-
go ahead.
Okay. Update on the money manager custodial bank agreement. You know that we been negotiating with Wilmington Trust on various issues. Today, we finally came to the conclusion that we all agreed on the language. We were stuck on the insurance language, what requirements they have to notify us and things like that. But today, we got that all resolved. It was really, to me, dotting i's and crossing t's and things like that, but it was language between their attorney and our attorney. The other language was the fiduciary responsibility and the prudent man, and where that was going to show up in the agreement. Those were the two issues that were the last issues first resolved. So I believe in October, I will be putting that agreement on the agenda for you to vote on, and Rob will be able to say it's good. I just wanted to make sure you knew that have been working through the process. I may have a phone call with Wilmington Trust, Cornerstone, and I may invite Mr. Bilek on that phone call if anyone else wants to be on the phone call. It is basically understanding some of how the transactions are going to be flowed through and why they need to have an asset in a nominee's name. And it's very technical, and it's about how things travel through the financial networks. It isn't anything that you're going to care about, and I'm going to learn a lot about it. But we are going to talk about something that's very technical that Mark had brought up.
So just as food for thought, it's gonna come out on the agenda in
October.
the middle of October. So we had
20th, I
this,
think.
we had this topic at our last finance meeting? We had them in, we had some suggestions on the agreement. We're in a new format, so we have consent agenda or not consent agenda. My opinion, I would like to hear from the rest of the board, would be that it could go on the consent agenda as long as the amendment was circled to the board members so they could read it ahead of time and have time to put questions back to Bob before then. And assuming he doesn't get any, overarching, very problematic questions, because people did have detailed questions about those agreements. So that means that agreement has to be done, in my opinion, at least a week ahead of time and circulated.
And would that be available to the public?
It's fine with me. That's fine.
I don't care.
But if we read it ahead of time, so I'm putting out to the board that we need to read it ahead of time. If we have issues, let Bob know so we can pull it if there needs to be some kind of board table discussion. But otherwise, people were in agreement with it, generally speaking, as long as we get long enough to review it and say, oh, I don't understand this phrase, or I don't know, and I have concern about this, then it can go to consent. I mean, that's the goal, right? That's what we're trying to do. You're the one with experience with this, that's why
It's up to us.
I know.
With something like that, we'll have some agenda items on consent, and we'll still have some as formal motions.
Okay. I don't personally care, but I'm just trying
That, I think, could be a reasonable one. It's up to us. But that could be a reasonable one to still be a formal motion, since it's not being presented here at committee.
That's fine with me.
If we feel.
We approved everything, concept. We had two little
So
changes.
that's the question, I guess, is if we feel like it's already been so vetted.
Even if you have the consent agenda, because I think that's one thing, since we're talking about how that meeting will run, even if you have the consent agenda, at some point, it will make sense to say the consent agenda tonight contains the following high-level items.
Right.
And just, this includes the agreement that was agreed in principle at the last meeting with Wilmington Trust. It includes six agreements with individuals to be providing services. Just bang, 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 what have we done? So at least we're not operating with the world.
Right. I would like to see it referenced somehow for the public to the date of the meeting where the discussion took place, just in case somebody.
Yeah, I don't particularly care if we read it as long as it's in the agenda.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's-
The other thing is, if when
when
it comes to us a week ahead of time, there are board members agreed that would like to have it
Absolutely.
added to the agenda, that's the purpose
Pulled
of
out.
this.
Pulled out.
It can be pulled out.
I just wanted to say, I don't want
Right.
anybody here to say we didn't talk about it, now it appears in the
Right.
consent agenda, and I'm upset just
Exactly.
by that fact. I'm just
Okay.
trying to say,
But I think it's one of those cases where everybody's good. In this case, because there are extenuating circumstances, if everybody's not good, when it comes out a week ahead of time, then we'll be very respectful of that.
we're good,
Sounds
right?
good.
Okay. Is that it for you? So I was supposed to do this first, and I'm gonna do it last. So I'm supposed to ask who wants to be committed to attending finance. Everyone's welcome, as always, board and public, but board particularly I'm talking to as committee members. So Mr. Bilek did express, although he's not here today, he's on vacation, that he would like to. And all that means to me is I'll know at least 3 board members are gonna be here, and if you commit to it and you can attend, at least for my committee, and I guess I'm going first, but what I would say is I'd ask you to find another board member, make sure they're gonna be there. So If you said, I'm gonna commit to the finance meeting, you have a work or a personal, then you just call another board member and say, can you make sure you're there? So that as committee, I always have at least 3 other board members here. And honestly, in finance, it's really not typically an issue, but I think that's what we agreed to.
First of all, these will be advertised meetings
Absolutely,
regardless of the number.
regardless, everybody is
So-
welcome. It's just that we won't end up with less than 3.
Well, and I guess a mechanical thing, just asking those who are present. Robert has, sorry, so many names. We're doing.
Dr. Frazier.
Dr. Frazier. Then I got Bob, and every Bob we've ever had, it was finance had a Bob R, so it doesn't matter.
It's your own personal now.
It is. Have the board members found when he sends out, or when he sends out the notice in the meeting invites format, that you can accept that in your calendar?
No,
Does that work? That's not working for me.
doesn't work for me.
The only reason it does. The only reason I was asking, because then that also gives us a way to take attendance before we get here to say, I declined it because I'm going to be busy that night. I send the regrets, which gives
We're pretty good at that.
the
I
office
think,
a heads up.
I think it's just
I
this,
don't get them back from you.
Oh, no.
It's interesting. I only get them back from 1 or 2 board members.
they don't work for me, so I know.
Okay.
I was just assuming it was working on your ends, though,
It
but
does
just
for me.
not coming back.
Well, that's half the issue. The other half of the
Okay.
issue is what Wendy suggested, which is the onus is on those who committed to a committee
Right.
to find a replacement.
And again, I don't think, to be honest, I don't think that this particular committee's as much as an
Well, the
issue
other thing
as
that's
some of
weird
the
though is
others.
that finance and facilities are meeting on the same night.
I will tell you, I probably won't commit to facilities because getting here on time on a frequent I will do my best to blow in
Because
when I can.
facilities is first.
Facilities is first, and so
That's kind of, that's.
that's why I had one in
Right.
time for finance too. When I was a member of the public, there were times I went to one and not the other, but either way, at this point, who wants to commit? That's it, guys. Come on. Who wants to commit to being at finance or finding a friend?
Mr. Bob's already.
I have him down. We have one.
I'm sorry.
You, me, and Mark. We need others.
2 more.
Somebody? Denise?
Well, I'm gonna come, but I wanted, in that context, I would be committing to facilities. To facilities, because, so I don't know, can I be on every single subcommittee?
I don't care as long as you're here, and if you're not here, you find another board member.
So, I would.
Mike,
defer to someone
Ed,
else.
anybody? Jerry?
Well, let me
What
come back to
is Bill
this thing,
expressed
because
an opinion?
saying this is your third choice?
I wasn't at this meeting, and I didn't watch all of it. I saw you advocate for 7 or 7:30 starts. This is a 6:30 start today, so,
But going forward, this will be
Seven.
7:30 or 8.
okay, that's fine, because, yes, I only come to them anyhow, so it doesn't much matter. It's,
To be honest, the important part for me is
Like
something
bowling,
happens and it's the middle of July and for some reason we have people, it's not on me to start counting every time I have a committee meeting, who's attending and who's not.
that's right, one of the.
That's right, they emailed. Yep, okay.
So you've polled them.
It doesn't, no, but it doesn't, Mark wrote and said, I want to be on it. Andy and Bill said they weren't coming. It's
No,
not,
that's,
I did not go back and say, do you want to be the committed person on finance? And if you don't attend, will you find somebody else? They're invited to the meeting.
Listen, if one of them really wants to be one of the 4, you can drop me off and I won't be offended.
It's not like nobody has any greater power because they've committed to
You don't
attack.
want to be the 8th, because if you're the
Jesus,
8th one, and you're not showing, there's only one person to pick.
Yeah.
And anybody listening who's confused why this is a 20-minute conversation, watch the board meeting.
Thank you.
I was very disappointed with the level of commitment to this.
He's personally insulted.
But I mean,
I know what you're saying, I still want to say every committee. And the day you go away, you'll have to make 10 people phone calls. But, okay, I think that's all we had on finance tonight. I think we're good. Public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Nancy
As
Carroll,
far as,
Newtown.
Nancy Carroll, Newtown Borough, as far as Paste and Noe goes, I don't understand what the value is of a local presence, but I will give you the historical fact that before Paste and Noe, there was a local insurance company that came out of Upper Makefield. And there was a time when 5 board members in Northampton had them gave the contract to Payson Noe in a 5-4 vote. Secondly, I never understand why it's cheaper to bring the IU services to the district, because I always thought, and if I'm wrong, could you please correct me, that teachers here and their benefits are more money than teachers at the IU. I can understand where there'd be a scheduling benefit, where there might be, and oftentimes we hire the same people to do the job, so that I don't understand. Number 3, even if there were only 3 or 4 members here, I think that they would be able to give the approval to move forward. When this is a subcommittee, it's not a vote. So if 3 or 4 members come and say, go ahead, put that on the agenda, or we need more information, I think that's how subcommittees work. Number 4, I agree with Wendy, that the best, I can't even understand, that these things could move forward. Just by asking whoever was here if they wanted to move forward. I agree with Jerry that the public should have more information on the consent agenda. We don't even know what's on there. It's just consent agenda, even if it was just a list on the agenda itself in writing. That's all you need to tell them, that these are the kinds of things that are on the consent agenda. And number 6, nothing against you, Wendy, but I had always thought that maybe it would be better to flip-flop the finance and the facilities meeting.
Not at 6:30
That
start.
would be hard for you.
It's not all about finance.
But then, what happens is the second meeting usually gets more time. Maybe if in advance you can put the dates, which one will come first. This
We're
is
gonna
up
be
to you,
so efficient.
but I think it's worth it.
We're gonna be so efficient, we're gonna have ourselves.
Well, to be honest, that's what I had said, Nancy, we should start finance at 8, giving an hour and a half to facilities, and then 8 to 9:30 is finance.
There are times when facilities, finance is really short, and there are other times when they go on really long. So,
Well, and that's really honestly is a question, I think I wrote to you and to Police Chief Rob, which
that's all I
was,
have.
we could actually list the meeting as facilities and finance and not list a specific time. That we have a quorum of the board meeting is all the public notice and the meeting agenda. It's all the notice the public needs. It doesn't need, beyond that.
That
there's
meets
facility and
that
finance.
meets our obligation, but the person who has a topic they're interested in then is looking at a 4-hour and
Let me just say,
Yeah.
facilities always used to be during the day, so that the tradespeople could come.
When?
A long time ago, when I went for 5 years, they were always
So
during
more
the
than
day.
17 years ago.
What?
It was more than 17 years ago.
It was before we built the high school. 5 years ago, I missed like 3 meetings. And they were during the day, in the old building. But the public is certainly more likely sometimes to come to facilities because they're donating something from the PTO, or, there's a reason for them to come. But you have an awful lot of tradespeople or outside people who come to facilities meetings, and you have to give them some kind of consideration. They've had a long day, a lot of them get out like before the crack of dawn. So,
me too.
Nancy, we don't only answer public comment question, but the one you asked, which I'll give the answer to, which was local presence,
yes,
just so we're clear. And by local, we don't mean you have to be within the Council Rock district. But what it really means is, Pete Palestinian and I retired from Payson. We had fires. He was here taking pictures of them because when the event was happening, he was there helping to schedule the damage mitigation companies to come in, and that they're present and they have a certain amount of accountability because they're present. Even most recently, we had a $50,000 claim with the hot water at a school, Richboro. They were present. So that's what the local, I have some very qualified brokers who are in Center City, Philadelphia, but I don't know, and I've used them professionally for organizations that are out that way.
maybe that would be something to add to the list.
But that is,
that he is looking for, insurance companies that really do school districts, that is the primary
Agreed.
thing.
And he's
And
right
maybe
now.
that's something to add, how fast can we get somebody out? Thank you very much.
Can I just make one other point, all jokes aside? With no criticism to Doug or facilities, I do think that is a place that we could tighten up a little bit in terms of what we see. I don't know that we need to see every picture of every chiller water heater. I maybe we do, and maybe there's a reason that we do, but I think that that's part of the reason those
You're
meetings
on
have.
facilities committee now, Joe.
No, I think we've gotten into a
Since she's
habit.
off, she's in charge of it now.
I think
I
Doug
have to
is
show them on the TV.
justifying, I think he's explaining, I think there have been times where somebody has said, I never knew about that. I think we've gone to the other side of the tracks, and there is a level of detail that I'm not certain that he needs to be spending the time on the presentation, or that we need to see unless we ask for it.
You know,
Or it could be on the website.
Yes,
that was my comment, Denise, just an email and put it on the website for everybody, and then we don't need to talk about it.
You know, when you're in the middle of a $110 million construction project, those updates to the community have value. And so
They give it to the kids.
even if he doesn't, we disagree on the cable show, even if he doesn't in PowerPoint, and maybe we play it on the cable show, or you make it available on demand, he can do that. And then, you're right, that part of the meeting doesn't need to.
and I
occur.
understand that the middle school renovations and construction
It's
is
exceptional.
different than, on some level, the smaller items that we're talking about at every other school.
Right.
I don't know the balance, I don't wanna shortchange anyone, anything, Doug in any fashion, but I do feel it is a place we could look to tighten up over time to the issue of the duration of maintenance.
The people being taped to the wall with duct tape have been on for 4 months now. And I think it's time we could put those pictures up of the schools that the kids are gonna enter. So that's,
Okay, anybody else, any other comments? I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, we're gonna be having updates on those buildings every month with or without the pictures. So, I
Yes.
mean, but I think it's a valid point that you make.
Anybody else? Okay, meeting adjourned.